Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what my electric guitar practice looks like, how it fits into the bigger picture, and what I like to do for scale practice. You can see my dog Hamish in the background there. Hey boy. Alright, so this is my only electric guitar. This is a Squier, Fender's value-oriented brand, part of their Paranormal line. And this is their Paranormal Stratocaster. As you can see, it has something of a Telecaster aesthetic. This pickup right here, the bridge pickup, is very much a Tele style pickup. These are all single coils. We have 3 single coils here. We have a 5-position selector switch. Well, actually a 4-position selector switch, and this pull-out knob that lets you connect an extra pickup to any one of them. So in effect, you have any possible combination of these pickups is possible. So you can be entirely on the neck pickup or entirely on the bridge pickup. Gives you some tonal variety. It does have a pretty bright tone, like you would expect from a Telecaster, or like you would expect from single coils in general. Fingerboard, fretboard plays beautifully, which is why I picked this one. Primarily, when I'm doing my electric practice, what I'm doing is either scale drills or working on specific riffs, specific motifs from songs that are easier to practice on the electric. If you've played both, you know that the electric has thinner, lighter strings that are more inclined to be bendable, so you can hit those bluesy notes, and it just takes less pressure to fret a note on the electric. So what I do with this is I've written out what I call the practice matrix. Practice matrix, since there are 12 possible keys in Western music, what you do is you roll a 12-sided die to determine what key you're working on that day. My primary key that I've been practicing when it's not randomized is G major, relative minor, E minor. So that major scale in Ionian is going to look like this. Root, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, root. All right, so that is the G major scale. I know that all over the fretboard, so I can play those scale shapes with or without emphasizing the root in any position on the fretboard. But the way that I actually practice when I'm practicing a scale, let's say that today I rolled a 1 on my D12, which would get me into G major. Now I kind of practice my G major positions every day, and then I usually add something, but for the sake of example, I'll show you how I approach that. So what I do is I determine first if I'm going to be working in the major or the relative minor. There's also days that I focus on the pentatonic. There's other pages to my practice matrix where I roll dice to determine whether I'm going to be focused on pentatonic or major, or whether I'm going to be focused on, pentatonic or a full 7-note scale, whether major or minor. There's a major and minor of both the pentatonic and the full scale. So let's say I'm working on G as my tonic. I'm going to focus on the major scale. So the way I would go about that is I would start in a given position. What I would do is start playing from the root, play through the whole shape very slowly, counting aloud. So the shape, the first position of the G major scale, shape actually starts here, but that's the 7. So what I would be doing is actually starting on the tonic. So starting at the root, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, root. Now Now, I will usually say root out loud. Sometimes I will mark the root by sort of a half-assed tremolo picking. And then I continue playing through the scale shape, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, root. Now in this particular case, I was able to end with the root, which is convenient, but not always the case. So what I do now is I play backwards and I go past the root to the beginning of the shape. So. And then I go forward again until I hit the root. Now another variation of that is to mark not just the root, but the relative minor as well. There's days that I mark the G and the E in this case. There's days that I mark the 1, the 3, the 5. There's days that I just play these shapes as pentatonic. So the pentatonic shape here, the G major pentatonic scale, would be and then I would play it descending, so to speak. I sometimes will emphasize just the pentatonic and hit the chord tones, the 1, the 3, the 5. Sometimes I will pick a couple pentatonic shapes up and down the neck, 2 adjacent shapes. And what I'll do is 1, 3, 5, and then come up with some kind of transition and get to 1 through 5 in the other shape. I might also focus on a given day on playing, like let's say I wanted to play an E major scale. Not only would I practice the shapes, I would also practice it on the open E strings. So root, 1, 2, 3. And there's my E major scale. The purpose of this is ear training, to build different associations. Sometimes I'll try to build those associations by let's say, saying the names of those chord tones out loud, saying the names of the roots out loud. Something I do also when I first roll that, that 1 that gets me in the G is I pick out G's all over the fretboard. Sometimes I'll try to do this as fast as I can with, an app open in front of me that shows me where they are, so I can just build those associations without the verbal part. Other times I'll actually count them out and try to deduce based on my knowledge of the fretboard where all those notes are. I think it's important to rotate between those methods because that's how the different parts of your brain that are involved in getting something from your ear to your fingers all get trained in their role in that process. I have found scale practice, without a context, not to be very valuable. I mean, it's good finger training, but when you're putting your scale practice in the context of these shapes, of riffs, of songs, of keys, I think that's very valuable. That's how that theory gets internalized. It's important to remember that these shapes are movable. So I know that this is my G major pentatonic shape. Now, what if I get A? So if I get A, I know that this same pentatonic shape, because A and G are 2 semitones apart, I know I just have to move that shape down 2 frets and start it on the 5th fret right here. So this would be, an A major, if you will. And go from there. If I'm having trouble calculating where those shapes are, what I'll do is I'll just open up an app that shows me where those shapes are, and I will then, once I've seen the shape, remember what G shape it looks like and count down and try to deduce where the equivalent shapes are. Keep in mind that you have 12 frets that repeat. Like you have an E on this open string, you have a E an octave up on the next fret, and if we could go to 24 frets, it would repeat again. So if I know my G is right here, then I know my G is also right here. And of course, we have two E strings, so that's a G, that's a G. We have a G string, of course, so we know that's a G. We have an A string, so we know that we have a G there. It's a matter of counting, and then it's a matter of memorizing. Sometimes you go back and forth between those two processes, but eventually you will find yourself combining them to the point that in most cases you know where the notes are, and when you need to figure out where a note is, you can take some shortcuts like, oh, I remember that's an A, that must be a G, two semitones up. That's kind of how it works. I also like to take a given riff that I might know in a certain key. Like I know in A minor, this sort of B.B. Kingish lick here, this. So if that's A minor, which is C major, I know how to get from there to whatever other key I want to get to. So if I wanted to move that up to, B minor, I could just jump up 2 frets and I know that's the B minor version of that lick. This is something I kind of do in my playtime after I've done a few repetitions of the scale. I'm like, okay, what do I know in this key? What songs do I know in this key? What licks do I know in this key? What can I transpose? Are there any songs that I know in this key that I'm learning now that I can transpose licks from because they're in another key? This is a combination of structure, of a randomly imposed structure that includes, I might not have planned on working in, I might not have planned in working in, C sharp major today. That might be a key I have very little use for, but forcing myself to work in it anyway, playing around in that key, I might discover something that I can transpose, or someday I might be learning a song that's actually in that key, and it'll come in handy. But more importantly, it internalizes that process of figuring out if X goes here, where does it go in this key? So that's sort of how I practice with the electric guitar. I have this weird dichotomy in my mind. I enjoy this. I greatly enjoy playing this, but when I pick up one of my acoustics, there's a feel thing, there's a mystical connection. It feels like a piece of art. It doesn't feel like a tool. This feels more like a tool, even though I love it. I guess in my soul, I'm an acoustic player for now. That might change. Keep in mind, I'm not even 7 months into learning guitar, but that's where I'm at. And this is what I'm enjoying for now. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if there's any particular routine for learning the fretboard that has worked for you guys. But this is what I'm doing for now. Thank you for your time.